I have where we left off last class. I have my grid I just turned off. You'll notice that this is going on right here. There's faceting around here. This doesn't really matter when I smooth up. So smooth preview kind of gets rid of that. But if we look at this, I just want to do a little bit more cleanup on my hold edges here. So if I double click on here, just add some hold edges to keep hard corners. There we go. So just bevel. That's looking far better on the bottom, but now we notice that this top is also causing a problem. Notice right here, I can't really see or work with that. That's where our Alt-H command. So we're isolating our selection. We're not hiding the other pieces in the sense that it's the hide command. It is isolate. So we grabbed this piece that we wanted to inspect a little bit better, Alt-H. Now we're only working with this component. So if I grab these and hit bevel, shrink it down, now I have some hold edges on that as well. So now how do I get back out? Control-Shift-H will bring everything back. And again, we're going to spin around this thing, making sure we're not missing anything before we move on to our next phase. That looks pretty good there. I want to mirror that over, so we'll just press the mirror button. Notice it's not really helping me right now. It looks like it's on our Z, so we're going to change our axis to Z. There we go. All right. Labeling. That's not at all. So what we can do here, two different ways to make this easy for ourselves. First thing, we can go in, select things, call it table top, go in and then get to points where we have no idea what the names are and we have to guess, which is kind of fine. Or let's just grab all of this and hit combine for now, delete our history on it, and now notice a lot of this went away. And I can go in and just call that table. Now I'm not worried about all these other components. I might need to go back to that and change that to be separate pieces for whatever reason, whatever the project I'm working on is calling for, whatever it is. But this is fine. Step 4, we need to do it in a way that our pieces are laid out the way they need to. Notice this is kind of up a little too tall. So if I go into this button, separate again, you'll notice it stays within a group, all my components in here. It still names that as a group. So I can just at least grab these guys right here, use my move tool, and just slide that down. There we go. Now, the beauty of this is I have this table, I can minimize this, and it's still organized. So I kind of like it kind of like that. I can go in and tap the 3 key, smooth the stuff up. Remember, this is just smooth preview. I am not actually tapping the smooth button. You could cause some major issues with that if you do that. Now that I have all that going on, do I have a chair or a table layer? No. So let's grab this. Let's grab this button right here, and we'll just call that our table layer. Now remember that there are differences between our layer options. I can't name this table because this object name is table. So if I call it layer at the end and hit save, it will let me do that. If I make this button happen instead, create a new layer, I'm not adding objects to the layer if they're selected. I'm just making a blank layer. Nothing's in it. This one is the helpful one, which basically allows for me to be able to add objects of my selection to that when I create a layer. And then this one right here moves the selection down list. So I can change the layout of this. You guys don't know how good you have it. This was awful back in the day, and now it's just a button that no one cares about. Okay, so I've got that stuff going on. This is organized. Chair, are you a chair? Yes, but we'll make you into, first delete our history, and then combine, and then now we will delete our history again. That's clean. Chair. Now, chair 1, why? Well, we have a layer that's named chair. Again, things can't have the same name, so if I change that to layer, hit save, and then I go over here, double click, delete the 1 out of that, it's gone. This is important not so much for where we are right now in school, but if you're working in a studio, I don't care if it's an animation studio or if it's a game studio, names can destroy things. If you don't have the right name, people won't be able to source those in code, or you'll send someone to a madhouse by trying to find stuff that you have not properly labeled. It can cause lots of issues. We don't want that happening. And more likely than not, they just make you leave early with a box of all your stuff because you didn't follow rules. I've got all this stuff going. Apparently it's not in this layer. Reason why, I changed the name. So if I have this selected, so chair is selected, right click and add. Now, look at this. Got a grid. What I'm going to be able to do here is start the construction of my plants. So the construction of my plants are going to need to be done in a way that I'm not making each individual one of these petals. I'm not making each individual stem. I'm trying to think of some methodologies that I can actually use to save time and energy, but also make something awesome. So here's a way that we could do that. I'm going to make a plane, and I am going to reduce this thing down. Right now my poly plane is 10 by 10. I want this lower so I can actually manage that a little bit better. 4 is pretty good. What I want to be able to first do before we go any further, so we're going to work on the leaf. Here are some leaves. I'm looking at a ZZ plant. So these ZZ plants, kind of have some interesting leaves. Does anyone have questions? I hear talking right now. All right, so I got some leaves here. Check them leaves out. They're kind of round. Got a tip on the front that kind of shrinks down here, but most of it is rounded. Can't find any specific of just like one leaf, but that's okay. We kind of have an idea of this. And again, we're gonna make a stylized plant. It doesn't necessarily have to be exactly the same. These plants are kind of nice because it's almost impossible to kill them. And by almost impossible, anything's possible. All right, so these are really easy to kind of make. We're gonna go in, we're gonna go to vertex mode, select our corners. I'm gonna shrink them down. And by that, let's do that better, like this. All right, I'm gonna scale. Now, here's a cool thing I can do. If I go to my modeling toolkit, notice that I have this option right here for symmetry. Symmetry, if I turn to Object X, if I were to grab one side and move it, check that out. I can actually shape the entire thing. Sort of like if we were in ZBrush, where symmetry was like a very common way to work. So one thing to realize that you're gonna first have issues with, you're gonna select one of these and then think you have to have the other one selected, and you'll cancel that out. So just think about this as one side and then slowly start to shape this form. Now what's really nice about this too is I can go into my soft selection mode. So if I tap the B key, soft selection right now is enabled, but it's so big, that gradient is huge, that when I move anything around, it's grabbing everything. So what we'll want to do is use the middle mouse button and the B key at the same time to increase or decrease the size of that soft selection. Remember, we were doing that last semester. It was kind of annoying. So B and middle mouse button to change that. So now we can kind of just grab one part and then just shape this up. That's not enough influence, so I'm going to increase my influence on that. There we go. So this will just give me a little bit more control on how I can get this form to start looking more leaf-like. So we're getting there. And remember, the goal of a 3D artist is not to make things overly complicated for yourself when we're working. I know that this doesn't exactly look hyper realistic yet. I want to simplify forms first and then get these details later on. I don't want to go super detailed and then find that I've got to spend 30 years fixing geometries. Low and slow, less polygons, the better. Easier way to work. So I'm going to tap the B key and move this back, grab these, move that back. And I'm kind of just thinking about like how this is kind of arranged, where there's a curve to it. I know it's a V, But if we kind of think about this as like the shape within the form, there's like these V's happening. So I'm kind of replicating that as well. So got that V, and then let's grab this, move that down. There we go. So at about this point, looking pretty good. Let's go back to our soft selection. I'm going to go B again. Grab this front and then squish. Maybe some of these can be squished a little bit more too. And there we go. All right. Squish it out a little bit more like this. Now I can go in and use multi-cut, add another edge loop. So I hold down Control and cut. I'm going to turn off soft selection again, and then just kind of reshape some of these forms a little bit more. There we go. So you notice I do have a quad here. It's really not going to do anything bad to me. If I tap the 3 key, you'll notice that that actually rounds out quite well. Down at the bottom though, I still have that angle with this form. I want to make sure that that's a little bit more like that. All right, here's where it actually starts to look three-dimensional. So we talked about vacuum forming and all that fun stuff with the shovel and the pail. This is a similar idea where we're working on things on one plane and then we'll extrude. So what I want to be able to do is help myself out here is add my stem, or at least the base of this. So what I'm going to do, double click, hit bevel. So by beveling, I'm going to basically add the middle section of this leaf, but I want to make sure my segments are up. So that gives me that middle line. From here, what I'm going to be able to do is extrude this whole shape and then get a tube going here. And that tube is going to be very basic. It's going to be a 6x6 or a 6-sided cylinder, but you'll see this in this next form here. So what I'm going to do is turn off my symmetry, grab all my faces, go to extrude, and pull up. So now we got something like that. Kind of get that, maybe or something like that. And then now, let's go and add ourselves a loop in the middle. So Control Shift 50%. It's looking okay. Let's grab these and edit mesh circularize. Now you'll notice, thank you computer, it kind of did a really weird thing. Twist is not on, but it did twist it. So we can kind of untwist. And since this is a organic model, it isn't really that big of a deal. If that happens, we can always adjust that. That's looking pretty good here. I'm gonna extrude that and do it again. And what I wanna be able to do is basically have it so this bottom part is at a 90-degree bend. And you'll see why in a second. So if I take this and then hold down J and rotate, it's gonna look really bad at first, but if I move this down and then just kind of rotate that some more, so we're gonna use rotate and J, and there we go. So now it's like this. From here, rotate this, move this down. That's not too bad. What happens when I use the 3 key? Okay, some gross but okay stuff at the same time. So taffy. This bottom part, because I have a cap on it, is starting to go a little bit squishy. So instead, let's grab this, delete this, and now tap 3. Hey, that's better. Now, what about this stuff? Well, this is where we can kind of sculpt this leaf to make it a little bit better. Right now, it is super duper flat. This is also a really good idea to go in and save this because we don't want to lose our work. So we can call this leaf start. And then now, let's activate soft selection again. Let's turn on symmetry again. And Object X, there we go. So now, pull that up. Cool. Let's go and kind of do that a little bit more here. Oh snap. It's starting to look kind of like a leaf. Or airheads that have been molded into a leaf and need a little bit more help. The candy, the mystery flavor that isn't a mystery at all. It's just random stuff without food dye. All right, there we go. We got something going here. So what I'm going to do is get this middle line now, right down the middle. Mystery is never a mystery. It's just runoff.
Is it
Yes.
conspiracy to save dye?
Food dye? Are you triggered by food dyes? They're in everything. They're microplastic food dyes. Everything's in there. All right.
I mean, bread is made out of bugs, so like.
I'd rather eat bugs than mystery
That's bugs.
mystery
Dye, they have to wear
stuff. That's what lacquer comes from. Don't eat lacquer.
Ruin the color red for at least you. Ruin the color red.
Some of us have no problem eating bugs. Some of us enjoy it. All right, let's see here. I'm going to expand these out. If you've never had crickets, you don't know what you're missing. They're delicious.
No, you. What's wrong with eating bugs? You will eat a shrimp, will you?
Good point.
Okay, no wonder you're an exception.
Most of your cereal has it. That's the added unfortunate. The additional ingredients on the box of cereal is because of cockroach legs and things like that. So, too bad. We're all made of bugs.
We are all bugs if you try hard enough. We all bugs.
So I am sculpting this thing out. It's starting to look pretty good. I want to make sure that that crease is emphasized. So what I'm going to do is kind of just grab this middle line, and I'm going to shrink this down. So right now you'll notice I kind of inverse that the wrong way. But if I squeeze these, or what if we actually just take this thing and do a bevel on it? Is that going to help with that crease? Let's see. Yeah, that's looking pretty good. So I got a leaf here, and it's not too bad. I do want to work out just a couple little spots here because it is just not defining that front a little bit as much as I wanted to. So just stretching that out.
Why don't you just remove the two vertices at the very tip?
Right at the tip?
Yeah.
Like right here?
No, those two, okay?
It doesn't like it.
I can make it happen. There we go.
Shots of
It's okay. So it's a good idea. So with this, we can have that, or we can just taking these and then pulling out like that. That did such a better job at that. So that's good. So yeah, we can, and you guys will be noticing your own processes as you go. That's the kind of cool thing about this is you'll be like, oh wait, what if I go with this? Or I wanted a different shape to my leaf. So I'm just trying to get right now what we would think of as a generic shape to those leaves, and then we can change these up as we go. If I go with something like this, I kind of like it. I'm gonna make sure that this is though oriented in a way. Let me turn off this. I want it to be on my grid. That's why I have grid on right now. So what I'm gonna do, tap the D key, move my pivot so it is basically, hold down V, pull, and snap. It's right here, right in the middle. And how do I know it's in the middle? Well, because I'm holding down the V key, and if I can get to this point, that's kind of the middle point for this, and I know it's already in the middle point for this direction. So we're right in the middle, and I can hold down the X key now and whoop, snap it. So we can snap that to here. Now, we'll banish this. Get out of here. We're gonna do something new. Make a cylinder. All right, we've never had to do this before. We're gonna go into the cylinder, and we're gonna increase the amount on the height. And we're going kind of crazy with that.
Okay, that's first.
So this is, Maya can handle this.
Can it?
Yeah.
Yeah, mentally.
One thing though, Maya might have a hard time handling a lot of them, right? So if we have a branch, one branch is fine. An entire forest's worth of branches, Maya starts to question its existence, right? So we want to help out. So one of the things we can take advantage of, I need a lot of these for a bend modifier, right? Because Tom Cruise couldn't bend if we didn't have multiple divisions down his back. That just like in the real world, Tom, right? Remember? So same idea. We need to have enough divisions here to perform a bend on our branches. Now, I don't probably need these many around the edge. And right now that we have this, we have 20. What if we go to 8? Looks kind of bad like this, but when we do this, mesh display soften edge, it's not bad. So now what I'm going to do is just take this and scale that thing up. And I'm going to squish it down and bring it up some more. And we're going to squish it some more. And a smart way to do this, I'm doing this on the yellow, which is everything. Let's just do this on this. So it's only going to scale it on my depth and my width. So something like that. Okay, cool. Let's go a little bit further than that. So they're thicker on the bottom, thinner on top. That's how science works. So we're going to take this thing, I'm going to go to UVs, or not UVs, I'm going to go to my deform and lattice. We haven't used that in a while either. Let's open up lattice. Hello, lattice. What we're going to do is hit apply. We only need 2 by 2 by 2. And it made a box. All I got to do, lattice point. Just a little bit. So remember, the way the lattice is working, it's basically your height, width, and your depth of that, right? So X, Y's, and Z's, or your X, Y's, and Z's there. So the 2 is up this way, 2 this way, and then 2 the other way. And that's all it's making. So if I wanted to have 2 more along the middle, I would add more of that. And you're probably thinking too, wait, couldn't I use a lattice to pose this? You could. So if I wanted to change this, so let me delete my history on this. Let's go back and add a lattice. If I added like 12 to this number, I could theoretically position that, but I don't like that, and it takes too much time. So we're going to use the bend instead. So let's go back to this, 2, and we just want to basically taper that top. So I'm going to use this and squish it. Now let's evaluate our silhouette. So if I take the model, delete my history, and let's turn off our grid, and let's go lighting, use no lights, and let's change. There we go. So you can kind of see that taper in effect like that. So let's turn our lights back on, and let's turn that on to a color that we can kind of see that in. There we go. What's that? Alt B. And we can toggle between all sorts of gross colors in gray. But we can change that in our settings. It just, you can change that in here. So under one of these, I rarely touch that, but in here, like, background is in there, and it'll do that. It'll change it from whatever gradient you want. You might not want to do that. All right, so I changed it to purple once, and I questioned why I did that immediately. So I have my leaf, and I have my stem. This is where it gets fun. So we can take this, shrink it down. I got one. Now remember, I put that pivot point right on the bottom of that, and I did that for a reason. Now that is still ginormous, that leaf. So I need to kind of shrink this down. I'm going to grab all of this and shrink this, and then bring it back over here so it doesn't look so weird. Tapping the 3 key. Oof. Got to fix that. So the only reason why that's doing that is because we just have this piece we got to tuck down. So we got to go down like that. That's starting to get a little bit better. One little triangle there. We could just take these and then say you're all one piece and pretend it never had a problem. Okay, so now this is looking okay. These might be going out a little bit too far still, so we might still want to take all of this. And I'm just evaluating my reference in this, how much of that stick is pronounced on here before the leaf happens. And for this, it's actually going to be, whoop, There we go. Something a little bit more like that. Okay, so I've got a leaf. Now, looking at nature, and it's important as 3D artists that we do that every once in a while. We get outside, we don't stare at the sun, but look at a sunset, you know. So it's important. Notice this is what I was talking about. We sort of have symmetry going across both sides, but there's always one that's a little bit lower. And again, this is stylized. It's not 100% real. But if I take this one and bring it over on the other side, move it down. I said move it. There we go. And then rotate it. Cool. Maybe this one comes up a little more like that. So now, let's take both of these, duplicate them, bring them up. Start to shrink it a little bit. Change the rotational value of that a little bit. Let's keep on going. So maybe there's this one, that one, and then shrink it a little bit more, offset the position so that way it feels more like it's organic and not 100% made by a person in a game art lab right now. We're just contributing to the matrix, by the way. We're just helping it by making fake stuff like this. Okay, almost. Let's also change and vary some of the locations. Right now you can tell these feel like silk flowers. We want to make it so they're a little bit more like that. All right, let's keep going. We're going to grab these, bring those up. And just keep doing that until we have an entire bunch of leaves. That's how nature intended. All right, so scaling is important. And varying this. Now there is actually a plugin, we don't have it in here, it's an extension that you can actually download for free. It usually hangs out right here. And they are a couple really nice things. One of them is randomize, and you can actually randomize based on translations, scale, and rotation. So you can actually have Maya accomplish this for you. We don't have that in here just because it's not a typical thing that's installed. However, for those of you who have Maya installed at home, highly recommend add on the Maya plugins. It's a free add-on that Autodesk creates, and it would allow for you to perform this randomization with less carpal tunnel, which is always nice, because that will be all of our futures. Just know it will happen soon. It's like getting tennis elbow when you're not playing tennis. You're literally just using your computer. It's the same fun. And for you, like, I don't know what that is. It's like, does your elbow hurt? Probably. It's tennis elbow. Okay, so I'm just breaking up some of the monotony of how these are looking. I don't want it to feel like a background plant from Mario, where it's just completely the same.
The vine.
Yeah, the vine, right? So, or like Minecraft vines, all that stuff. So we want it to kind of feel a little bit more organic.
No.
We got to get them glow fruits, right? How are you gonna
Well,
get them recipes?
well, then there's like the glow lichen that makes you think of diamonds, and then you put in.
It's a lie. It's just a lie. Yep. So almost there. Again, you'll notice I am rotating these things randomly a little bit just to make that feel like it's not 100% the same. And how do we make this top part end? A couple different ways to do that. We can kind of bring these two together near the top. I'm actually going to take this top piece and delete that out, so this is a little bit shorter. Now let's move our pivot back over to here and bring that in. And no one's saying that you have to keep this all the way up to the top. We can always shrink that down a little bit too. So there's that. Let's shrink this down some more. Almost. Almost there. There we go. And just trying to make sure that none of these are out, so I can grab my vertices and kind of pull that into. So that's pretty good for my first branch. Now, let's take this whole thing and combine it, and we will put this in branch 1. So we named it that. I don't have it currently living there, so I'm just going to right click and add. So there's branch 1. Branch 1 is going to be left alone. Did I name this wrong? I didn't name it, that's all. Branch 1 is going to be left alone. We're not going to do anything to it. We're going to make more branches based on this branch. So what I mean by that, duplicate, turn that one off, add the duplicated version to it, separate, and now we can just kind of change up our pivot points on here. Now, one thing to realize, and I just glitched that out, combining these things into one plant and then separating this, my pivot points are gone. I tried to say words and they didn't happen. So a better way to do this, they're gar. Pirate speak. Better way to make this happen, take the whole thing and just add it to the layer. Don't combine it. That way, take it again, duplicate it, add it to another layer. So why I'm doing that is because now I can actually keep those pivot points that were originally there, and let's make another version of one of these leaves. One of these is just like, what happened to all these other petals? They're not there. They're just up at the top. Okay, well, grab these. Maybe the cat lives at that house, and the cat decided that you can't have nice things. So,
As cats tend to.
yeah, they tend to. They're interior designers, all of them. That's why they're knocking stuff off of your shelves. They don't like anything to be where they didn't put it. So I just made another one. And I'm varying some of these angles as well. So I want to change this up a little bit. Just a bit there. So now if I look at the difference between these, they're a little bit changed. Maybe this top one we could also rotate just a smidge. All right, so that's my 2. So we're gonna turn that one off. Take this one, duplicate, add it to another layer. Let's unselect the stick. Let's use our rotate and watch this. Give the crowd a wave. Oh, snap. So this is awesome because I can change all of these at the same time and then have another plant. So where is our first one? Second one. Let's still help it out a little bit more because we don't really want all the same amount of leaves. And let's just do this. Let's grab some of these and push them down a little bit. That way, they do feel like they are a little bit curated by us and not just duplicated, moved. So we're just changing some of this. We're picking where we're putting them rather than just like letting Maya do that for us. So there we go. So I got that one, and I have this one, and I have that one. So that's what we're gonna do. I'll make maybe one more. Take this one, duplicate it, add it to the layer, and then now this one, yeah, shorter one. Good idea. So we're gonna go with, by shorter, all I'm gonna do is this. And then I'm going to use scale. Notice by doing scale, they'll all scale at that same time. Rotate to give it a little bit more adjustments here. I'm going to deselect some of them and then rotate some more. Yep.
So, I know you were like joking earlier, like do the wave. But
Yeah.
If you're doing an animation, could you use
Yes.
that to like make
Yep.
things move?
Absolutely. Yep. That's a really good way to make these things move. So now I have these, right now they're kind of following too much of, like they're all kind of laying down to, along like one plane. So what I'm gonna do here is just rotate these a little bit more to break up that silhouette. I want this to feel more organic. Now the more time you spend on this, the better it's going to look. So it's just something where you kind of have to feel this out, examine it, and then go into your lighting and then use no lights, and you can kind of tell even better. It just helps to see like what is that actual silhouette doing for me. So now I got all these things going. I got 4 of them. Now we can combine. So let's combine them. And then now, let's hide it. So we'll add that. Save. Man, it's nice when the computers actually work fast and not like last Wednesday. Leaf done. That was fun watching it try to open that window for an hour. Okay, now how do I make this? Anyone want to take a stab at what this shape is?
I must say cylinder.
Yeah, it's a cylinder. And this is an easy one, right? So if we make this, there we go. And
But it's not.
in the words of Bon Jovi, it's not a cylinder?
Doesn't seem to be a cylinder.
That's what he says. Bon Jovi says that. It's not a cylinder? That was one of his hit songs. So, no, we're going to use a sphere. I lied. It's not a cylinder. Yeah.
You made me try. I've been moving. I was lied to.
In the words of Bon Jovi, we're halfway there. So if I delete this,
Yeah, that was good.
because all I have to do with this whole shape now, yeah, we're going to use B, soft selection. Yes. So we can go around. Now I'm doing this in a weird way and I'm going to select weird stuff. So instead, let's go into our front view and just grab across here. I know the camera's in our way. Sometimes if I go to show, viewport, and then cameras, there it goes. He's gone. All right. So now, soft selection might be a little bit too intense for that gradient again. So let's hold down B, middle mouse button, drag. Might be a little bit better. And I only want to do this on the middle one because it's going to do all of them. I don't want to do it over here. So if I do that, remember, it's going to do that. So we're going to go back into the front view, deselect a lot of this, scale. Hey, that kind of looks like that almost. So we're almost there. Get these out, scale a little bit more. Now I know I have some problems right here, but we can fix that really quickly by just adjusting a couple other spots. Now that I have this, let's squish and bring that down. Now, soft selection, B, turn it off. That way we're not going to mess that up. I can go into this now and kind of scale some of these spots here. Now, this is a lot for me to think about. What if we do like this? Here's one, here's another one, and another one, and another one, and that one. Control Delete. Hey, my brain can handle these numbers. They're so much easier than the amount that were there. And when I use the 3 key, you would never know. So it's super easy to use that soft selection. So I'm going to take these, squish them in a little bit more. And now we can see that silhouette building up. It's pretty simple at this point for shaping this. It might be needed to be a little bit taller. Okay. Let's look at this in perspective now. We need to ring off of this. So we're going to grab this one, grab this, delete. That's much more closer to our reference. And then now, it's single-sided. Let's pull from the blue. Now it's not single-sided. We got a weird lip across the top. It looks like this is a flat surface almost. Let's fix that. So let's go with this loop. So double-click, move it down. And let's double-click while holding down Shift to select all these. And let's hit bevel. There we go. That's pretty close to what that is. Might be needed a little bit thicker, but I'll leave that alone. Now we need to put dirt in here. We put dirt in here. That'll do. So that's all I had to do with this. I can pull these out just a little bit more so it is no longer intersecting there. We got that. So here's this. I might need to be a little bit taller. So let's actually just take these bottom pieces and pull that. There we go. That's better. So now, plants. This is the fun part. Save. Again, just because we know. Yeah, so pot done. There we go. It's a pot. There we go. All right, so now, layer 1. Actually, let's grab these, put them in a layer 2, so we just know where that is. And I can turn these off and on to be able to work with my plants. So with this, I need to combine all of them. And your powers combined makes a branch. Okay, so we're gonna go into deform, nonlinear, bend. And look at that, it's in the right direction. We just have to go into the attribute for that. So remember, we're usually looking at it like this. Click on this one and give it a, ooh. It's bending.
Low bound.
Yeah, low bound needs to go. So let's grab low bound and bring it down to a 0 and then take a bow. Look at that. That's kind of cool. Now what's even neater about this, if I back this up before I use the bend, if I need to have a lot of these, so remember we use one model to make variations of that. I can use another one of these models and make another variation just by using bend in a different way. So if I do that, let's say that this one right here, layer 1, so that's in here, I'm going to duplicate that and add it to another layer.
Could you use bend as a rig for this?
Yeah, it technically is a rig when anytime you have a deformer. So nonlinear, bend, go back to that, get rid of low bound. There's a thing. So now I can also control that bend. Look at that. That is nice. So now I don't need this to go anywhere else. I'm going to delete my history and I'll hide it. Let's grab that one. Let's do that again. Deform, nonlinear, bend, go into here, turn off low bound, bend it maybe just a little bit. Maybe because this is bending in this direction already from the other one I used, let's bend it this way. And look at that. It's like dancing. So we got something maybe more like this. Let's take this, delete our history. We got another one. Turn that one off. Let's go to layer 2. So let's take all of this, combine it, and you guys get it. We're gonna duplicate. I'll have another one. And then for this first one, bend. Now remember, the reason why this is working is because we have so many divisions up the stalk of this. If we didn't have that, just like Tom Cruise, he would just collapse in on himself.
Just 2 breaks his neck.
Yeah, we would want it. We would want this type of thing going on here. Now, right now, that bend is happening at the middle of that stalk. Maybe I want that to continue further down. So again, bringing that over here helps that happen. All right, that one's done. Delete. And you get it. So I'm going to assemble these. Let me just grab one more. Combine, deform, nonlinear, bend, and oh, maybe not so much. There we go. Rotate a little bit there. All right, let's take all of these. I'm going to delete my history. Let's get that pot layer back. And okay, because my history got deleted, notice where my pivot point is. It's kind of annoying. I can't position this the way I want to. Instead, I'm going to use the D key, tap that, move my pivot point down. Now I can move that at the base. And pop that over here. And then let's grab this one. Do that again like that, so I can move this up and rotate it. Now I can also scale that a little bit too if I want that to be bigger. So that way it just gives even more variation to it. Got that one done. Next one. So I'm going to be careful with how these are intersecting. That kind of breaks 3D. When you see things kind of jammed together and they're all touching, it really, like in video games too, right? Like you're playing a game and it's like, wow, that object's clipping into that, or my character is in the middle of the wall, right? So it kind of breaks our brains when we see that. So we want to not have that happen. So we're kind of looking at stuff like this. Is that intersecting? No, these look pretty good. So I'm going to play the game of duplication and move that over and rotate and scale. And you would never know those were the same pieces unless you spent more time on looking at my artwork than most people ever would. Again, that's the thing. As artists, you know about that mistake you made, but if it's so small, no one else will. It's not worth losing your mind. So I'm going to make one of these kind of... There we go. Yes, that's exactly...
I swear to God, someone would do that on purpose.
No, we were all... I mean, it's good that we can joke about that because we all think about it. Like, someone's going to analyze this and literally see that I am off by a micron.
Well, I watched people, making the game made a mistake, and then people, like, they had to confirm that it was a mistake because people were just making theories and lore based off of the one mistake.
Yep. It happens.
So are we having a club meeting today?
Is there a club meeting today,
That's what Matt passed.
guys? Is there a club meeting today?
Yes.
Okay, yes.
Okay, so 1:45?
1:45, yeah.
Okay.
Come on in. All right, so look at this. I got something going on here. It needs a little bit more vertical piece, maybe like that even, just solving that. But we're pretty much all set with this. What we want to be able to do is make sure that it's in a spot that we can actually find and then save it, and we're good to go. But look at that. It's holding up pretty well for these shapes. We're just going to use normal materials for this. But notice, we started with one leaf, and we started with a tube. And through duplication, translation, rotation, and scale, we were able to develop an entire model that looks pretty complex. So complexity through simplicity, it's the best way to go. You get a lot of cool stuff going on. And this is even more complex than this model is, or this image is right here. So that's it. And then make sure, please, save scene as, plant in pot done, plamped in pot done. And now that I have all that, there's my table. Ooh. Scale's a bit weird. And there's my chair. Something's going on here. So here's how we can easily adjust this. What if I select everything here? Let's deselect the pot. Select the pot again. Whoop. So let me back everything up. Select everything. So just drag across. Deselect. So control. Click on this. Hold down shift and then reselect that one. Notice the color change? Probably not. Hold on. So notice this one's green. Let's deselect this one. Hold down shift and select it. That is the last selected object. It's green, meaning that if I have that selected and I tap the P key, you will notice all these other things now will be parented to it. So P. So this now, when I select it, is all green because all these other children will go with the parent. So I can take this and select it and squish it down. And I'm almost ready to have my friends over for some tea on a rainy day. Oh, hold on. My friends need a chair that they could sit in. Let's fix that. So we're going to adjust this. I'm going to bring my grid back in just to make sure. Now, right now, let's go into our front view. That's lined up pretty good for scale. I think on that, let's just go a little bit bigger. Okay, so now, line that up. Let's snap it using X down the middle. And then let's move this over here. And I'm going to hit Control D to make another one. I'm also going to change my pivot point to the middle. So hold down X and drag that to the middle. So tap D to get the pivot point manipulator, X to snap to the middle, and then another chair, and then another chair, and another chair. Now I only have one friend, but it looks weird if you have just two chairs, so this looks better. So that's all set. Maybe there was maybe an issue at the tea party has happened, right? So this is where we want to be getting going, because the next step that we're going to do, we're going to wrap this up next class, We'll make a window, and we'll make the rest of our setting, and we're good. A dream catcher? Is that what this is?
No, that's not that.
I don't know what this is.
That's a nid. Yeah, that's a nid.
That's just something a psychopath named.
It looks like a rice huller, actually. Okay.
Wicker basket on the wall.
A flattened wicker.